Good morning, all. As we enter into this virtual service, please note that those of you participating via Zoom have been muted by our host, and we ask that in-house participants please remain masked while in the sanctuary. Also, be advised that our services are being recorded and, with the exception of joys and concerns, will be published online. And finally, if you wish, take a quick moment to arrange your own chalice at home. We come together this morning to remind one another to rest for a moment on the forming edge of our lives, to resist the headlong tumble into the next moment until we claim for ourselves awareness and gratitude, taking the time to look into one another's faces and see their communion, the reflection of our own eyes. This house of laughter and silence, memory and hope, is hallowed by our presence together. This morning's opening words are from Kathleen McTeague from Singing the Living Tradition. Joel will now light the chalice here in the sanctuary. I invite you to light your own chalice and place it where it can be seen by all of us, or if you are able. We gather this hour as people of faith with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope as a sign of our quest for truth and meaning in celebration of the life we share together. Before we sing the first hymn, let me remind our remote participants to leave yourselves muted and our in-house participants to please remain masked. However, we want you and whoever is with you to sing with Mary and Jan as big and loud as you like. Make it a joyous experience. So let's all sing the opening hymn, number 1008, When Your Heart is in a Holy Place. Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist community of Cambria. we are glad you have joined us today. We acknowledge that our UUCC sanctuary stands on land that was continuously inhabited by coastal Chumash and Salinan indigenous peoples, whose ancestors lived primarily in the San Luis Obispo, Santa Barbara, and Ventura counties. As a Unitarian Universalist community, we celebrate religious diversity and welcome all who journey in search of faith and spirituality. The UUCC is a lay-led congregation, inviting speakers from different religious traditions and spiritual or scientific backgrounds to speak at our pulpit. We encourage presentations covering a variety of topics and areas of interest to our community that connect with the UU 7 principles. Today's service centers around the third principle. We affirm and promote acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations. Spiritual growth isn't about a vertical ascent to heaven, but about growth in every direction at once. It's spirituality in 3D. Growth in spirit doesn't measure one's proximity to a God above, but rather the spaciousness of one's own soul, its volume, its capacity, its size. We need souls that can take in the world in all its complexity and diversity, yet still maintain our integrity. And we need souls that can love and be in relationship with all of this complexity. Instead of fight or flight, we need a spiritual posture of embrace. My name is Steve Nathanson, and I am your worship associate this morning. I would like to extend a special welcome to today's guests and visitors. We're glad you joined us this morning. If you were not on our mailing list, please visit our website at www.uuccambria.org that we may keep you informed about all of our activities. And please check out What's Happening, a weekly e-blast sent to all of our members and friends. This is a great way to keep up with the latest news in our community. And a reminder, if you wish to see this or any of our past Zoom services again, recordings of these services can be found on the UUCC website and on Facebook as well. The membership committee invites non-members to consider joining our community. Please contact Diane DeMarco or a person on the board if you are interested. Thank you. So once again, good morning and welcome to everyone. The affirmation is both a recognition of the nature of our community as well as a promise we make and aspire to. So let us now recite our affirmation. Love is the spirit of our church, and service is its prayer. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in freedom, and to help one another. We set aside this time for any short announcements that would be of interest to our UU community members and friends. Please keep your items short and to the point. For any items that need more explanation, please call or email the person after the service to be respectful of everyone's time. If you have an announcement, please raise your hand. When Randy or I call your name, please stand or unmute yourself, then speak. Any announcements in the sanctuary? Jan?
Yes. The scholarship committee has started work on our applications from Coast Union High School. We've received 28 applications, from which we will choose a minimum of 5. That's what our budget is for. And we still haven't gotten, excuse me, our applications from Leffingwell, so we may have even more than 28 applicants. But they're very deserving people, these kids. They're just break your heart wonderful. And if you feel inclined to contribute, we would happily accept your money. And on behalf of the children, of course. And you just have to write in your check a memo on the memo line for a scholarship fund. Thank you very much.
Any other announcements? How about out there on Zoom land?
Okay, Dolores, please unmute yourself and give us your announcement.
Yes, so on the 26th, we're having a covenant meeting, and we are going to be fed after the covenant meeting on Saturday, the 26th. But you'll need to get your meal selection in by tomorrow. So if you plan on coming to the covenant meeting and you would like a meal, please send me your response by tomorrow so I can get it to the caterer, who's Annie. And I hope to see you all there. Okay, thank you. I sent you an email, but if you need another one, I will send you one. Thanks. Bye.
Any other announcements this morning?
I see no other hands, so back to you, Steve.
Okay. Next week, Rich Smucker will present My Weed Teacher, the Wanda Kelp Mysteries. Can't miss that. Sharing together some of our personal and significant joys and concerns brings us closer as a faith community. We now invite you to share the milestones that are deeply felt as part of your personal life. But please be mindful and considerate to all who come to worship with us this morning. This is a time of community building. The collective flames of these candles embody all the joys and sorrows which may have gone unspoken today, but are deeply felt in this community. Our first reading this morning is an excerpt from Curragh, a Scottish historical novel written by Susan Fletcher, a British novelist. I've heard fate talked of. It's not a word I use. I think we make our own choices. I think how we live our lives is our own doing, and we cannot fully hope on dreams and stars. But dreams and stars can guide us, perhaps, and the heart's voice is a strong one, always is. Your heart's voice is your true voice. It is easy to ignore it, for sometimes it says what we'd rather it did not, and it is so hard to risk the things we have. But what life are we living if we don't live by our hearts? Not a true one, and the person living it is not the true you. Let us enter a place of peace and serenity where you are at one with your spiritual being. Be at peace within your space where the absence of all that is temporal is its most cherished gift. Let us enter the stillness. Light, shine in. Illuminate our inward view. Help us to see with clarity. Shine bright and true, so we may join our songs in new sounds that become full symphony. Susan Fletcher's words. Our second reading is an excerpt from Rise Up and Salute the Sun, the writings of Susie Kasem. The world citizen is a small leaf on the giant tree of life. They do not see a difference between the branch they were born on and the remaining branches on the tree, because they understand well that we are all connected to the same roots. The world citizen sees each section of the world as a part of their arm, leg, eyes, and heart. They do not class, contain, or separate themselves or their identity by ethnicity or religion, because they see their existence as a small part of a greater whole. When asked about their religion, the world citizen simply replies, "My heart." So I have the pleasure of introducing Mary Ann. Mary Ann Anderson has a heart problem, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and high hopes to live out the rest of her years in good health. But this is not why she's speaking to you today. Her years as an educator, poet, and performer have taught her to see the world with an open mind and a heart filled with compassion. She joined UU because she was searching for her tribe, her fellow world citizens, and found that the 7 principles summed up her beliefs and practices perfectly. As for beatification, she asks only to be honored as a person with a giving heart and a lovely voice. Today's sermon is titled Meditations on the Heart, to be delivered by Mary Ann Anderson. Mary Ann?
Please unmute yourself.
She's muted.
Aloha all from Maui. I would like to begin with the third reading that I just could not resist sharing with you. It's a poem by Stephen Crane from the Black Riders and Other Lines. It's called In the Desert. In the desert, I saw a creature naked, bestial, who, squatting upon the ground, held his heart in his hands and ate of it. I said, "Is it good, friend?" "It is bitter, bitter," he answered, "but I like it, because it is bitter and because it is my heart."
The heart pumps blood throughout the body, carrying oxygen and nutrients to every cell. It's this circulation of blood that is vital to sustaining life. The heart is an organ made up of several tough layers of muscle. The pericardium is the thin layer that covers the exterior, while the endocardium lines the inside walls. The heart is divided into 4 chambers, 2 upper and 2 lower. The upper chambers, known as the atrium, receive blood coming into the heart. The lower chambers are the ventricles that pump blood out. Between each chamber are valves that open and close and help keep the blood moving. They are the tricuspid, mitral, pulmonary, and aortic valves. A pumping cycle starts when oxygen-depleted blood returns to the heart after circulating throughout the body. The blood enters through the right atrium before flowing to the right ventricle. It's then pumped to the lungs via the pulmonary arteries. There, blood is rejuvenated by air that's breathed in. The oxygen-rich blood returns to the heart through the left atrium, where it goes to the left ventricle. Then, by way of the aorta artery, the fresh blood is pumped throughout the body before the process repeats itself. That process happens with every heartbeat, and it's relentless. The heart beats 100,000 times a day, 40 million times a year, and up to 3 billion times over an average lifespan. But there are conditions that can disrupt a heartbeat and that normality. They can range from myocardial infarction or a heart attack to heart disease and hypertension. In contrast, exercise and emotional excitement can also have an impact on a person's heartbeat. The various blood vessels that comprise the circulatory system are a network of veins, arteries, and capillaries that span over 60,000 miles throughout the body. And the heart is the pump at the center of it.
So here we've just seen a fairly simple explanation of the heart, the organ of the body. Many of you know this already, but I thought I'd show it for the interesting statistics of how often it beats and how many miles of blood flows through us. But no, this is not a lecture on the anatomy of the aorta, the valves, and their bodily function. Let us dig a little deeper and get to the heart of the matter. Let's explore that force which drives us and guides us and keeps us alive. How do we react physically, mentally, and spiritually to the events of our lives? After all, we are not robots. We are emotional, sensory-driven beings who are constantly in search of the right stuff. Well, if you ask me, it starts with the heart. That's where it all begins. So in this talk today, I'm going to be introducing music that brings us closer inside. The first one, let's get into a comfortable position and take a deep breath and set the outside world and thoughts free for a minute. And close our eyes and see for ourselves what we are hearing. Where do we begin? Begin with the heart.
Where do we begin? Where do we begin? Where do we begin? Begin with the heart. Where do we begin? Where do we begin? Where do we begin? Begin with the heart. Where do we begin? Where do we begin? Where do we begin? Begin with the heart. Where do we begin? Where do we begin?
Yes, where do we begin? We're going to see a slide now of the heart in just a minute. Yes, so when I look at this, don't those arteries look like upside down trees? They're the veins that carry our life flow, the ever expanding, retracting sac that keeps the blood flowing from the beginning of life to the end of our time on earth. The heart, the organ, the pump, the essence. I can almost feel it pulsating. And as you can tell, I don't look at things very scientifically. I mean, I'm mostly a right brain gal with a few left brain attributes. After all, my husband calls me the German and the hippie. But when I observe this image, I can't help but seeing and feeling life. The heart is charged with a great task. It's the breath of blood flow, the life-giving force. It's so perfectly in tune with itself and moves to its own beat, sometimes faster, especially when we're excited or afraid, or slower when we're relaxed or meditating. I remember one time I was taking vocal lessons and I was doing a Bach vocal piece and I had problems finding just the right tempo. So my teacher put his hand on my wrist and counted off. It's in the pulse, he said. Oh, but what if I'm nervous or excited before I perform, I asked. Well, then do it faster, he chuckled. I never thought of Bach that way before, but it did make perfect sense. I mean, his music feels so organic. One source says that the heart can expand its energy in other ways, through pulsation, vibration, waves of emotion that circulate through the whole body and out into the world. Joseph Campbell said, "The goal of life is to make your heartbeat match the beat of the universe, to match your nature with nature." What does this mean? How can we give so much power to a simple organ, a mere function of the body? Can the heartbeat really match the rhythm of the universe? Well, that's a big challenge. And what exactly is the beat of the universe? It sounds a little esoteric, doesn't it? I know I'm getting a little hippy-dippy here, but just sit back for another quick moment and close your eyes and listen to the heartbeat alone. It's the touchstone of our survival. No wonder we ponder its importance, its power over the head even, or reason, or sensibility. A new study by Daily Motion Amaze Lab indicates that while listening to the same story, humans' heartbeats sync up. It could pose pretty interesting evolutionary advantages. Researchers had participants listen to the same bits of both and a book and an instructional video. And using an electrocardiogram, they found the participants' heartbeats fluctuated in unison, depending on the part of the track they were listening to. What's more, they didn't even need to be listening together. This phenomenon occurred even when they were miles away in a different location. The researchers say it's less about how emotionally engaged the participants are and more about the attention they were paying to what's going on. Adding that to that, when the listeners were distracted, their heartbeats would not sync. And here's why the researchers believe this occurs and why it might be evolutionarily advantageous. We think it is because you need to be ready to act at a moment's notice. And for that, you need to know what is going on around you. In other words, you need to be conscious of what is happening around you, even if it's just a story. Close connection there to the seventh principle, isn't it? Well, think of all the ways that we refer to the heart. A lot of them cliches, but heartache, it's not something that an aspirin will cure. Heart of stone means cold and unfeeling. Your cheating heart equals deception. And how many rash decisions have we made blaming my foolish heart? And how can we mend a broken heart? The Bee Gees asked. Well, we can't exactly stitch it together, can we? A broken heart. Now, that's an interesting one. Have you ever heard of anyone who died of a broken heart? Unfortunately, I have. I had a friend who lost his wife tragically, and within 6 months, he was gone. He couldn't live without her. He died of heart failure. Looks like the heart is very closely related to emotional response and feelings. So, what guides us? Are we guided by the heart or the head or both? There are numerous studies done that reveal the interconnectedness of the heart and the head. Professor Sarah Garfinkel of the University of Sussex writes, cardiovascular arousal, the bit of the heart's cycle when it is working hardest, can intensify feelings of fear and anxiety. In this study, people were asked to identify scary or neutral images while their heartbeats were tracked. Of course, they reacted quicker to the scary images when their heart was contracting and pumping blood, compared with when it was relaxing. This suggests that electrical signals from blood vessels around the heart feed back into the brain areas involved in emotional processing, influencing how strongly we think we're feeling something. So when the heart is beating faster, we feel more intense fear or anxiety, right? And when it's slower, we get the reverse. A calm mind can actually help us deal much better with stress and emergency situations. You've heard of people calm in the heat of panic. They calm down. But can the reverse also be true? What if we act on feelings before reason? After all, we fall in love, don't we? Reason flies out the window and we act on emotional response. Or are we level-headed, assessing the pros and cons of perhaps having a relationship with another person? What do we base our decisions on? Well, my guess that it's kind of a split decision. And sooner or later, one might just win out. Or maybe they both agree. And those are the lucky ones. Now here's an interesting piece of history. When Thomas Jefferson fell in love with the married Maria Cosway, a battle ensued, not between him and her husband, who was very estranged from her, but between his heart and his head. In a long letter to her, I'll just read a few excerpts, he wrote of the dialogue between these two superpowers. Heart. I am indeed the most wretched of all earthly beings, overwhelmed with grief, every fiber of my frame distended beyond its natural powers to bear. I would willingly meet whatever catastrophe should leave me no more to feel or to fear. Head. These are the eternal consequences of your warmth and precipitation. This is one of the scrapes into which you are ever leading us. You confess your follies indeed, but still you hug and cherish them, and no reformation can be hoped where there is no repentance. Heart. Oh, my friend, this is no moment to upbraid my foibles. I am rent into fragments by the force of my grief. If you have any balm, pour it into my wounds. If none, do not harrow them by new torments. Spare me this awful moment. Yes, I exaggerate, but yes, indeed, I'm sure a lot of us have fought a similar battle. Our emotions, the heart, set us up for excitement or catastrophe, and sometimes happiness. But the head, with its rational sensibility, often dictates the final outcome, and indeed, Jefferson's head won out, much to his lifelong sorrow. So what's love got to do with all this? The biggest association we can make with the heart is the word love. Love is the heartbeat of all life, said Paramahansa Yogananda. Now get ready, because we're going to sit back again and hear a beautiful thought turned into a prayer or a chant. It's the poet Hafiz, 14th century, wrote, a mystic. He wrote something that goes just like this. The heart is a 1,000-stringed instrument that can only be tuned with love. So I'd like you to sit back again and enjoy this wonderful, wonderful chant or song or prayer, whatever you'd like to call it. But feel that pulse. Welcome the peaceful energy as it transcends into your heart. And pay attention to the rhythm, the drum beat or the heartbeat, if you will. All types of love can benefit your heart, says Dr. Christopher Suhar, the current division head of Scripps Center for Integrative Medicine. It's not just romantic love that can improve your heart. Having close, loving relationships with your friends and family can have cardiovascular benefits. Many surgeons counsel their patients about the importance of support after surgery, he continues. This support includes not only spouses, but close friends and family. Researchers have investigated the role of having the support of loved ones after cardiac bypass surgery, or even other surgeries. Over time, patients who had good social support had better recovery and survival rate. Surrounding yourself with people who love you, no matter the relationship, can also make you feel more inclined to follow medical advice and to take an active part in your care, which can improve recovery. And in my opinion, this includes all kinds of recovery, whether from surgery or from pain or addiction. A good example of this can be found in our own backyard. Many of you know Mary Ann Grau. She's a fellow Cambrian who was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer in 2016. And to tell you the truth, she's still alive and kicking up her heels today. Her book, Cancer and Fishnet Stockings, is a must-read and a prime example of support and the gratitude she expresses. Here's an excerpt. I wish I had Mary Ann. I wish I had asked you to read this for us. I know you're here. So I crawled into bed and hoped stillness would ease the pain. I had curled up into the fetal position, clutching my stomach, crying hysterically, and cursing myself for letting the pain get ahead of me. Frightened beyond imagination, I begged Norb not to leave me. He immediately got under the covers, wrapped himself around my trembling body, and began to rock me gently. And in what must be a contender for one of the most romantic scientific insights to date, couples have been shown to have a tendency to synchronize heartbeat and breathing. So now I'd like to sing a song for you. It was going to be the anthem, but we decided to put it inside here. Oh, look at that. That's the Locks of Love in Paris. And as Treva pointed out, it's dated because you can see the spire of Notre Dame. Anyway, this is a song by Atlas, and I love it. It's called Keep Me in Your Heart. Keep me in your heart, even when I'm far away. When the morning comes and those tears won't stop, please keep me in your heart. Keep me on your side. Well, you know, sometimes I run, and even when the tears, oh, they fall from your eyes, please keep me on your side. You know I'd wait for you 1,000 years. Oh, would you do the same for me? And I would swim across the loneliest sea if it meant you could be free, my love. Oh, you mean that much to me. Keep me on your mind, even when I am far away. And even though I know you may tire of me someday, please keep me in your heart. Keep me in your heart. Don't let me get away. When the morning comes and those tears won't stop, please keep me in your heart, my love. However far apart we may become, please keep me in your heart. Thank you. Ask any person who owns a dog or a cat or a horse or a bird for that matter. Doesn't it feel good to spend time with your four-legged or your winged friend? Pet ownership also helps people survive together longer after a heart procedure, notes Dr. Suhar. Now, this relationship has been looked at in both dogs and cats, and those two animals provide a definite benefit from a survival perspective. I believe it is because of the unconditional love that pets give you, and that you give them in return. Because when you emit love and your love emotion from the heart, it gets strengthened more and more. I learned that pet adoptions increased during the pandemic. Well, why wouldn't they? You know, we need touch, human or otherwise. It does a heart good, as they say. But tomorrow is Valentine's Day. One I must admit I shied away from when I was single for so many years, until I decided to send myself a Valentine's Day card. I figured if I couldn't love myself, I was in deep trouble. Perhaps you know part of the story already of St. Valentine, but let me refresh your memory. It's a very interesting story. In the 3rd century AD, it is said that Valentine, who was a priest, defied the order of Emperor Claudius and secretly performed Christian weddings for couples, allowing the husbands to escape conscription into the pagan army. This legend claims that soldiers were sparse at this time, so this was a big inconvenience to the emperor. The account mentions that in order to remind these men of their vows and God's love, Saint Valentine is said to have cut hearts from parchment, giving them to these persecuted Christians, a possible origin of the widespread use of hearts on Saint Valentine's Day, which unfortunately earned him a death sentence. And yes, Hallmark loves this day as well as florists and chocolatiers. But personally, I think we should celebrate and practice love every day, not only with our partners, but with other humans and animals and plants and oceans and our Mother Earth. So what can we conclude here? That this sac of hemoglobin is the grand central station of the entire body. All blood passes through it, ticking like a good Swiss clock. It keeps on pumping until one day it stops. And that's the end of our physical life. Yeah, so here we are. Hafiz also wrote, "Carry your heart through this world like a life-giving sun." I love this image. I love looking at that image of the hand. Maybe we can go back to that image there, Randy. Yes, I love looking at that. Carry your heart through this world like a life-giving sun. I must give due musical credit today to Leah Hokanson and the Songkeeper Women's Choir in British Columbia for the CD Diamond Chants Volume 1. This is my immediate go-to whenever I want to relax, calm down, and reach a state of peace. And if you're interested in procuring this, just get a hold of me and I'll tell you how. So I'm going to leave you with one more of their songs with those lyrics. Carry your heart through this world like a life-giving sun. I can't say that enough. And I thank you all very much and wish you a happy Valentine's Day. Thank you.
Carry your heart
Thank you, Marianne, for a wonderful presentation. The morning offering will now be given and received. Please keep in mind that our congregation is entirely self-governed by the democratic process. One of the privileges of our free church tradition is to provide all of the financial support for our many ministries from among ourselves. Generosity, therefore, is one of the greatest spiritual values we recognize as central to our personal and our institutional well-being. You are invited to participate in the blessing of giving. For those at home, please use one of the methods shown on the screen. Thank you. Our thanks for all gifts given and received for the work of this community. Now let us sing the doxology.
Let all the beauty we have known illuminate our hearts and minds. Rejoice in wonders daily shown, in faith and joy and love that cries.
So please join us in singing today's closing hymn, Shower the People by James Taylor.
The song I was thinking about when I began the song was, let me go without the birds and bees, but we're not doing that.
Better song. No.
You can play the game, you can act out a part. They know it wasn't written for you. But tell me, how can you stand there with your broken heart, ashamed of playing the fool? One thing can lead to another. It doesn't take any sacrifice. Oh, father and mother and sister and brother, if it feels nice, don't think twice. Just shower the people you love with love. Show them the way that you feel. Things are gonna turn out better if you only will. Shower the people you love with love. Show them the way that you feel. Things are gonna be much better if you only
Thank you, Mary and Jan. Let us now recite the valediction. We extinguish the flame of this chalice, and we know that the light of truth and love and the warmth of this community go with us until we meet again. Please extinguish your chalice at home now. After the benediction, please click on the gallery view button in the upper right corner of your screen, but please remain muted. Randy or I will call on you when you raise your hand. Marianne?
This is a quote from Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, The Little Prince. Here is my secret. It's quite simple. One sees clearly only with the heart. Anything essential is invisible to the eyes.